Good morning or afternoon, incredible agents from across the country. Today is April 26, 2018, and this is Mastermind call number 174. We were just saying we've had such tremendous participation lately. I'm going to keep my comments to a minimum or none today. Let's get right to the callers. Tim, anything you want to share with the group?
Nothing in particular other than to just comment on the fact that we're kind of have been spending the last couple of days going through our internal processes a little bit and doing everything that we can to make sure that we continue to not only provide good quality, but actually to improve on some of the processes that we have and make sure that our accuracy continues to improve and all that sort of stuff. So we never stop working to try to make it get better for you.
Excellent. And as always, guys, we have great participation in the Facebook group. If Tom were here, he would tell you just email support at all the leads and be real specific about what you need. But even nights, weekends, if you also have a thought or a success or a challenge, you can also post it in our All the Leads Mastermind Facebook group, and our members will jump right in and give you the benefit of their wisdom. Chad, anything you want to share this week?
Next Wednesday is our May role play call. So on the first Wednesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern, we host a probate role play call. So that's Wednesday the 2nd. You'll get an email the day before and an hour before. And everybody who's waiting on me for Probate Mastery, looks like that's happening next week, and I'm trying to figure out exactly which day based on my flight schedule. So keep your eye out for the emails we'll send out. If you've already registered and received recordings, you don't have to worry about it. I will manually register you. And if you haven't gotten signed up, you can do that, and we'll get started next week.
Excellent. Anybody who hasn't been on a role play call, kind of like Jeopardy, we try to keep it in the form of a question. We try to keep it in the form of a role play. This call is an open forum. Anything goes. Those calls, we want to actually keep it to situations you're finding challenging in your prospecting calls to both the executors and the attorneys. And Chad will be the agent. You guys can be the difficult seller. So please participate in that also. 2 o'clock Eastern Time next Wednesday. Excellent. We've got 4 people in the queue. I recognize the first one. Carlos, you have been with us for at least 2 minutes now. Do you have any wins to share with the group? Carlos, you're first up in the queue. Phone number ending in 6722. All right. I guess. Geez, can you imagine? He hasn't taken a listing yet. Hey, Carlos, you might have inadvertently got in the queue. If you do want to make a comment or participate, just hit *6 and hit pound again. Hit 1, *6 and 1. All right. Well, the next up is phone number ending in 1660. You're up next.
Hey, guys, real quick comment or suggestion. Is there any way to get Brandon a voicemail or something so that he can return phone calls? That's question.
So the most consistent way to get a call back, because they run multiple phone lines, is send it through support. And then he'll get the support ticket will be assigned to him, so he can make an outbound call to you.
Okay. I seem to not be getting a reply from that as well. So.
Okay.
Anyway,
well, we'll make sure. This is Lucky, right?
Yep.
Okay. We'll make sure he gets a hold of you today.
All right.
I think he's on the call, Lucky. I think there's a good chance you'll get called back right afterwards.
I'd appreciate it.
All right, you're very welcome. No problem.
Thanks,
all right, now we only have 2 more people in the queue. Next up is phone number ending in 5550. You're up next.
Okay, hi. My name is Sergio from Southern California, and can you hear me?
We can hear you great. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, I had a question. I was just wondering if you can help me answer it. I met a guy who is losing his property. The mother used to own the property, and they said the property is going into probate. But the probate has not been started. And I have a buyer who is willing to make an offer on the property. So I was just wondering how to go about working this transaction out. And
No, you said they're losing the property. Why are they losing it? Is it in foreclosure?
There's a notice of default filed against it.
Okay, and you're talking to the seller or their agent?
No, to the executor.
Okay, but
It's
they haven't filed probate. They haven't
Yeah.
filed probate, so there is no executor.
Well, it's when I asked them, they said he was the executor, you know. But when we're trying to find, the guy is not really that sophisticated. So when I'm trying to find out from him about the probate situation, you know, he really doesn't know. And I try to research to see if I could find a probate document on the property. There is really none. So I'm just assuming that maybe he hasn't filed any probate, if he hasn't filed the probate documents yet. But he does say that he has an attorney. So I'm just kind of confused. So I just don't know how to
Has the sale been scheduled? Has notice been posted with the time and place of sale?
No. It's a private party. You know,
it doesn't change the due process. Like, you still have to follow the state foreclosure laws. So
right.
If there's not a sale scheduled, I'm trying to figure out what your window is here.
You know, based upon the timeline, okay, the sale could be like on the 23rd of May, based upon the timeline. You know, because the notice of default was filed in January.
But have they posted a date?
No, the title company could not find any date posted for a sale.
Okay. So if they haven't properly followed the law, then your window may be bigger than you think.
Okay.
The quickest way to deal with this is to have the family, the heir. Was there a will or no?
I really don't know.
Okay. Regardless, if there was a will, whoever is appointed as the executor in the will needs to go file probate. If there was not a will, then somebody from the family needs to step up, probably the person you're speaking to, and go file probate, and then they can be appointed by the court as the administrator. And then they can sign a listing agreement with you. You can get the property on the market or bring the offer. Or are you looking to buy it, or are you representing the buyer?
No, yeah, I'm representing the investor. Yes.
Okay, so you could double end it. I would recommend just representing the seller in that.
Yes.
Excuse me, in that case, and taking the whole commission. If your investor's savvy enough, just have them sign an unrepresented party addendum.
Right.
So you're only representing the seller for the full commission.
Right. Now, let me ask a question. Is it possible? I mean, if the property is in probate, can it be foreclosed upon? That I don't know.
It can be, unless you file an injunction. So if you're up against a tight timeline and you know there's equity in the property, you can file an injunction so that the probate attorney or real estate attorney, or maybe both, could file an injunction with the court to basically freeze the process. So that's a loophole in the law to protect families, to protect the equity and assets.
Oh, okay. To file an injunction. Okay. All right. Thank you. I think that's the something I wanted.
I had a couple questions for you. How did you locate the person? It's not one of your probate leads that we gave you, right?
No, it wasn't one of my probate. No, it was from an NOD list.
Okay, great. And you just found out that it's in probate. Just a quick story. I was a realtor and an investor. When the market was good, I was flipping 3 to 5 properties a month. The best deal I ever did as far as an investor was one that by the time Dad died, they were 3 years behind in the payments, and they were less than a month away from foreclosure. And and the family was destitute, and they did not mind me. They knew what the property was worth. They knew I was making a good profit, and they had no problem. I was really their last solution. I mean, I didn't rape them, but I was fair with them, but I made a very healthy profit on it, and I did exactly what Chad said. I had an attorney. I had to go hire my attorney to go file an injunction to stop the sale. And they will they'll almost always stop it and give you enough time. They don't want to take, the home away from the family. Even the lenders don't. The lenders would rather be paid, than take the property back. So that could be a really good opportunity. It could be really good for your investor. And like Chad said, you can get a double commission, and you're getting it before it even hits the probate court. You're going to have to – what state are you in?
California.
Okay, so Chad, he's probably going to have to allow a pretty good time limit to close in California, right? So you're going to have to buy a considerable amount of time, depending on whether there's a will or not.
Oh, okay. But like, I guess the critical thing is to get a lawyer to file an injunction.
Chad, do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, you probably need an attorney to do it right, correct?
Yeah, for sure. That's not something you want to risk doing on your own.
Right.
So
No.
what you should do is meet the seller, your client, and I would start looking at the personal representative as your client, and the investor can be unrepresented. So you and your client should go to the probate attorney's office. If the probate attorney isn't comfortable doing the real estate law side of it, then you may need to go to a real estate attorney. But I would try to be present and be part of so you know what's going on and what your timeline is.
Okay.
And what Jim said, like if you do, let's say you can freeze the sale, you bring a contract from your investor, that's going to go into the court, into an overbid process. As long as the court approves it, you can go ahead and close it if someone doesn't overbid your buyer. So you can get court approval to close it sooner, especially if the administrator petitions the court for full authority. So those are all things that if you're invited, I would certainly go to the appointment with the family member and the probate attorney.
Okay. All right. Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
And no, thank you. A great question. And the nice thing that, I pretty much guarantee you're not going to have a lot of competition with other realtors. This is not it's not something that falls within the parameters of most agents' expertise. So just having that little bit of extra knowledge and, having us to help you should go a long way to you putting the deal together. Please come back in the next few weeks, and let us know how it turned out.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Now, guys, no, thank you. That's it. We have one more person in the queue. It looks like I made a self-fulfilling prediction there. We don't have a lot of people at the beginning, so we got plenty of room for more, guys. Nothing is out of bounds. Success stories, questions, challenges. If you're getting stuck on the calls, anything you need help with, that's what we're here for. Right now we have one more, and if you do want to participate, again, hit *6 and then hit 1. There we go. We got some more. Thank you. Next up is 0044. You're up next.
Yes, thank you for taking my question. My name is Joynal. I'm in New York. I'm with Realty Executives today, and this is my first attending this seminar. My question is, I really don't know where to start because I called few probate and it's a very emotional for them. Somebody just lost their loved one and had to deal with this. They don't take these calls so pleasantly. So please tell me how to start and what is the process step by step. So that will help, I think, many of us to get into the process.
Are you a subscriber of ours?
Yes.
So have you watched the fast track training and the other things we provide?
I did not. My company is subscribing. Realty.
I mean, that's a solid no. So the first thing I would point you to is go to your subscriber portal and take 38 minutes to watch the fast track training. That's designed to kind of familiarize you with our system and the resources we provide, as well as kind of get you to the point where you're confident enough to jump on the phones. After that, you should listen to as many of the archived role play calls. So if you go to Education and Training, Conference Calls, Access Call Archive, there are probably 30 hours of role plays that you can listen to, as well as over almost 200 hours of these mastermind calls. So we provide the resources are there and recorded. I would start with fast track, move to role plays and masterminds, and if you have questions, just reach out to us. It's kind of outside of the scope of this call to answer your question. Has a big answer, and we've got hundreds of hours of content to help you. So I would point you to those resources.
Can I have a contact number so I can call after the hour and if I have to subscribe differently, I will do.
So the main phone number at the top of the website, the 844 number, you can call that, and there's different options you can press.
844 what?
It's at the very top of our website, alltheleads.com.
It's 844-532-3369.
And
it's actually 844-532-3369.
Okay. And
if your company or broker is subscribing, then he or she should be able to give you the access code to access these materials. They should be available to everybody who's working the leads.
What county are you in?
Queens, New York.
Queens, you say Queens, New York. Okay. And have you or anybody in your firm gone through an orientation call with us?
I don't know really.
How did you? Well, let me ask this a different way. How did you get to be where you are right now? Did someone ask you to go through these? Did your broker give you this opportunity? Is that what's going on?
Yes. My broker gave me the number to call. Actually, gave me a few weeks back, and I was not available. So I was waiting to join today, and that's how I'm here.
Okay, great.
Yeah, call that. And one thing I would tell you, don't assume that these people. I mean, typically it's about 3 months from the date of death until the probate gets filed. So, yes, the people are grieving, but generally by the time they file the probate, they're past the process enough that they're ready to deal with this and they want to move on with their lives and get the probate settled. So don't automatically assume. We had a caller, Darcy, who about a month ago was in position you're in. She was just convinced everybody was going to be upset with her for calling, and the last couple of weeks she's called in with several deals that she's put together. It's an attitude. So watch all that training. If you need additional help, just send send your information of who the main subscriber is to us also, but just call that main number or send an email to support@alltheleads, and someone will reach back to give you a little bit of personal coaching, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Whom to talk? Who is the person to talk? Anybody?
I've got a different question. So let's try and get you a little bit more squared away. Who's your broker? What's the broker's name?
Realty Executives Today, the office.
Excuse me?
Realty Executives Today.
No,
okay, but I mean
your broker of record.
The name.
Oh, I guess the subscriber would be John Lagodis.
John?
John Lagodis.
Okay. All right. I'm not finding the record. I'm trying to get into your account and see if I can figure out what we've done or not done so far in terms of working with you, and I want to make sure we're doing the best thing we can to help you. So did you just get started? Are they just getting started?
They started about 3 months ago, I think, and then I don't know because
okay.
I can talk to you after because I don't want to take everybody's time.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, let's do that. And I think I now have this. So that's fine. Yeah, if you'll just send that note into support, and we'll get right back to you.
Okay. And what's your name, sir?
That's Tim. He's one of the partners, and I'm Jim, and Chad's on the line also.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Next up is phone number ending in 6722. You're up next.
Hey, sorry, guys. So I got disconnected earlier, but I got a question and a comment.
Sure.
I'll start with the comment first. I want to say I really appreciate the great job Chad did on the webinar a couple of days ago. I watched it yesterday and he did a great job. It was very clear and educational. And so I want to say thank you for that. And
thanks, man.
My question is, so I'm in Atlanta, and I am new to the software program, and I'm trying to figure out could I manage 2 counties at the same time, or would that be too much?
Well, I mean, we have subscribers that manage a dozen counties. It really depends on specifics of your business, and I guess more importantly, what your budget is. I mean, if you have the budget to pay us to do everything, we can automate your mail, automate your phone calls, automate the lead generation, and all you have to do is basically go on appointments. So it really depends on what your budget is, how much how much you want to pay others to do. But and again, it comes down to lead counts. If you're going to do it on your own, if you have 2 counties with 300 leads each, you're probably going to get buried. If you have 50 or 60, then you can certainly manage 2 counties.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is phone number ending in 5035. You're up next.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Can hear you.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to get on. They told us we were going to be doing the Mastermind training today for calls for the probates. So I got early on the call. You guys are going to do that next Wednesday, correct? Do like a live role play with the probate questions?
Yeah,
correct.
Same number next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, I just want to make sure. We were told to get on today about that, so I guess they got a little confused. So anyway, all right, I'll be on next Wednesday.
All right,
so
and you're welcome.
The Thursday calls are every Thursday at 1 p.m. is the Mastermind call. The role play calls are only the first Wednesday of each month at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. Same time.
And
2 p.m.
And
Go ahead.
I recognize your voice. I know you're brand new. You're also going to be getting an initial orientation call from Tom sometime in the next few days or week. So if you haven't got, just let us know. Reach out if you don't get that and supported all the leads. He's probably already tried to call you back. Okay.
Okay. So how about this alltheleads.com? I could go in there and access that, and set up an account, or if we talk to my broker about that?
Yeah, again, your broker will have the master account, so just get the access code from him.
Awesome. That's all I need to know.
All right, welcome. Thank you. Next up is phone number ending in 2468. You're up next.
Hi, guys. This is Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, so I'm just getting started with you guys. I got some March leads as kind of a back group of leads. I got my April leads. I sent my mail out to my March leads. So that should be hitting mailboxes probably Saturday and Monday. So I'm going to start my calls on Tuesday. I purchased an auto dialer per your recommendation, Vulcan 7, and you guys loaded both my March and April leads all into one big pile, which I can't work with. So I'm working with somebody from Toby from your department, trying to get that resorted out. So we're working on that, but that's not the purpose of my call. I'm just giving you a heads up of kind of where I am in the process. But I'm looking at one of these leads here that I got, and the deceased passed away in January, but her husband still seems to be alive, and I didn't see that I didn't see that as a probate, so I'm not understanding something about probate where there's a surviving spouse.
So, there's a lot of variables, and at each of these estates is a little bit different, but you'll see a lot of surviving spouses. So not always did they hold title to property correctly. Basically, probate is required anytime there are assets in excess of $100,000 or liabilities, which is in most cases, or if there's not a living trust. So even what you'll find is even in some surviving spouse situations, the house won't be part of the probate because it was held as tenants in the entirety, and it passes as soon as death occurs.
Right.
In other cases, it will be. But there's something that needed to be probated. It could be a car loan. It could be a reverse mortgage that that caused that. Like there's something that requires to be probated. Just because two people are married doesn't mean that you can avoid probate, because not everything passes contractually. Things like retirement plans, life insurance, things like that have specific legal language that it passes through contract, so it avoids probate, but other things don't. So the best practice is don't try to deduce really anything from the data we give you. The most important data point you have is a phone number. So you should pick up the phone, call with a servant's heart, and focus on the people in the situation, and then figure out how you can help and monetize it. I see a lot of people just getting started get wrapped around the axle and overwhelm themselves trying to guess the scenario when they could spend half as much energy and pick up the phone and just know the scenario. So don't focus too much on the data points. And as far as there's a lot of people have reluctance to call a surviving spouse too. Consider their position. They were on 2 fixed incomes. Now they're on 1 fixed income. Statistically, 80% of their wealth is held in their primary residence, and they're probably emotionally devastated, so they're not in a great decision-making capacity. Does that sound like somebody that could use professional help and guidance?
Yeah.
So for me, I never hesitate to call a surviving spouse, because the very first probate deal I did was a surviving spouse telling me to go to hell and never mail her again. 2 months later, her daughter called me hysterical, and I was able to pull together a solution and sell the house for more money than it expired for. Like, we made her an extra $25,000, and that was, for me, I'm like, damn, if I would have backed off, this woman wouldn't, and I did back off. I didn't know that. Hadn't learned that lesson yet. But the letter stuck around on her refrigerator, and I got the phone call. So that kind of woke me up to, okay, so most people, 89% of senior citizens surveyed intend to die in the home that they currently live in. But we know that the vast majority of them don't. We can't really, life doesn't happen that way. We end up in long-term care facilities, family members' homes, and whatnot. So reach out and offer anything you can to the surviving spouse. And when and if life changes, which can happen in an instant, you're going to be a much-needed resource for them. There's a video. If you look on alltheleads.com in the top right, if you click on blog, I do a series of posts called Tips from the Trainer. And if you scroll down, probably quite a ways down, you'll find one that says, "Should I call a surviving spouse?" And it's a video of kind of all the reasons that, things to focus on and what to consider, how to make it an empathetic approach. But it might help you to watch that video too.
Okay, I will.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. We have 4 more in the queue. Phone number ending in 0313. You're up next.
Hello there. This is Amy in California.
Hey, Amy.
So you wanted success stories.
You always have a good story, Amy. We love your stories. Fire away.
Well, my only bad thing is I hardly get any leads. I only get 40, which is not a lot, but I wish there were more. But anyway, So I did my first one, which was very exciting. And I'm in California, and the granddaughter was in Vermont. And she's an attorney, but not a real estate attorney, and doesn't really know anything about California. So she just totally trusted me and did everything I said. So we priced it aggressively. We had, and I had it all cleaned and everything, and we staged it a little bit. And so we priced it to create energy. And we had 15 offers, and it sold $71,000 over the asking price, and all contingencies were waived. No home inspection, no mortgage, no appraisal, no nothing.
Wow.
That's great. She's real happy.
And in California, I'm guessing the sales price was probably $139,000. Is that right?
No.
Just kidding. What was the sales price?
To give you an idea of the prices here. First of all, it's inland, so it's nowhere near the beach. And it's an attached house, so kind of like a condo, and it's completely dated. So it needs to be completely renovated. And I listed it at $699, and it went for $772, as is.
Nice. Yeah, I remember you on your first call. I think you said you had done your first deal. You said it was low end. It was only like $1.2 million. I think that was you, or maybe I'm confusing you with another California realtor. But that's great. That first of all, great way to provide excellent service, and you're just living proof that it can be done, and you're just getting started. So, and even though the relative was an attorney, she wasn't. That doesn't necessarily mean she was a know-it-all. She appreciated the help that you gave.
Well, it was just a whirlwind, I mean,
yep.
She didn't know, how to do or what to do, and I just kind of took care of everything. She just allowed me to, so I just did, and she priced it where I said, which I knew would just make it go crazy. It was exhausting, though, I mean, with 15 offers. Now, I could have sold it myself. I could have double-ended it. I had a really good cash buyer also, but I got her $10,000 more with another buyer, so and I could have cut my commission and everything else, but you know what? I just did what was best for her. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. I've got a question. So, up until the time you got all the multiple offers and had to deal with all the pain that comes with that, how much more work would you say this was than working with a conventional seller who might not have been as receptive to your leadership and expertise? Was it harder or easier or equal?
I think it was easier.
Yeah. So a lot of people get freaked out because they're like, oh, my God, I got to build this team and provide all these other services, and how am I going to manage all that? But the reality is, like, if you have the right partners and you're kind of acting as the hub and the wheel, you can take a seller from Vermont and do everything for them without having to do a whole lot of work yourself. But the perceived value of that is massive. What's your relationship like with that seller now?
Oh, my God. She thinks I died and, she...
Yeah, you're the only real estate agent in the universe from now on, and that's how every one of these clients will be. Like, they are the most grateful people you ever work with because you provided a true needed service. And she was overwhelmed and lost until she spoke to you, I'm sure. That's how most of these clients are.
Before she even, she didn't want to sign the listing agreement until she actually got the letters. But she told me that she was going to list with me. In fact, this is really a good one. On the phone, she said to me, because in California where I am, the realtors are desperate, so they'll practically do it at, like, no commission. I mean, they'll do it at a total commission at 3% or 4%. So she said to me, and because of the price ranges also, people will do it at really low commissions. So she said to me, what's your commission? And I said 6%. And she said, that's what I thought it would be. She said, you would not believe how many realtors offered me, like, 4%. And 5%, and I said that's because they're desperate. And but anyway, long story short, she just, I think some of the reason that she was so receptive is because it was very obvious I was trying to help her every step of the way, and she was so far away and on a different time zone and everything else. She was super appreciative that I was really proactive and just. I got a cleaning service for her, and I just took care of everything, and she was really thrilled.
That's awesome. So that's, unfortunately, a lot of people don't come back to the call to share those, but that's a typical result. I mean, that's how most of these deals will go. You have a home that has some deferred maintenance. You sell it as is, where is. You price it aggressively. They sell extremely fast, and you usually get more than you expect, and the seller is like your biggest fan. That's a very typical probate transaction, and it's not a whole lot more work. So,
yeah. Now my question, and I probably need to listen back to all your classes, and I took that original class, but I've been very lucky. Before I took this class, I also did a probate too, and they've both been full authority, so they're like super easy. Now I don't know how complicated it's going to be with, I don't even remember with the court confirmation and all that kind of stuff, what it's going to be like, all the differences.
Well, had she not had full authority, you would have had to have taken the offer, the ratified agreement, you would have had to have made that contingent upon court approval and closing within X number of days from court approval rather than putting an actual closing date in your purchase agreement. And then you would have taken that to the probate attorney. The probate attorney would have presented that to the judge in the next hearing. They would have had started the overbid process in your state. The public has an opportunity to overbid starting at, I believe, with a 10% premium above the price on the purchase agreement. If nobody bids, then 9 times out of 10, the judge will approve that and you can move forward with your sale. If somebody does overbid, then all of a sudden you have a new buyer, but you're not cut out of the deal because you still represent the seller. So it's not real complicated. It's going to add some time because you're at the mercy of the court schedule. So just make sure when you do encounter one of those to keep the emotions of the buyer's agent and the buyer, in check. Make sure that you don't sign a contract that has specific dates on it if your seller doesn't have full authority. That way people won't get emotional and they'll be waiting for your call versus staring at a calendar knowing that there's a closing date, similar to short sales.
And specifically, even in general, I guess, how long does that take? Like in California, if it's cash, you could even close in 10 days. But I know we have that notice of proposed action, which the attorney was great, too. When I even told him on Friday I had multiple bids, he just went ahead and sent that to shorten the process. So, yeah. But we generally close in 30 days here. So how long can it take with a court confirmation?
A year.
Oh, my.
Wow. There's a lot of variables, and it depends on, the judge is going to look at how much equity is in the home, how many liabilities does the estate have to cover. Like each one's kind of a thumbprint. They can take upwards of a year if people are slow to respond, don't show up, don't give the judge what he needs. If everybody's acting, everybody's guns are in the same direction and everybody's doing what they should be on time, you should, 30 to 60 days, you should be able to accomplish it. But you never know. The courts can be backed up for different reasons. There's no, it's hard to predict until you get into it and speak to the probate attorney about that specific case, how long it's going to take.
So basically, you just tell the other realtor if you have one that's full partial authority and needs court confirmation that it could take. There's no way of knowing whether it could be 30 days or a year. They're going to want some idea.
If it's not complicated, it's not going to take a year. If you have family members who can't be found, or you're trying to trace down death certificates of deceased heirs, things like that can slow the process. It's not common, but it does come up. I would just set the expectation with the buyer's agent. I would probably set the expectation of a 60 to 90 day window, and then if you achieve it in a shorter time frame, you're going to be their hero. But it's going to give you some breathing room, so they're not pissed off at you and aggravating you every day for the deal not closing.
And I guess is it pretty difficult to get a full authority if it's not a full authority? Is there any way to switch that?
Yeah, at any time the probate attorney can petition the court on behalf of the administrator. They simply have to either buy a fidelity bond or have that waived in the will and fill out the petition and present it to the court. Those are the only two conditions I'm aware of. And it's usually, it's usually in the estate's best interest and the court's best interest to grant that authority. I don't know why more people don't ask for it.
Yeah, because, especially with interest rates that are going up a little bit, if you get a buyer and you say it could be, 60 days to a year, I can see saying 60 to 90, but that's even really long for here, a 90-day closing. It seems like it certainly is best to just try to get it to be full authority. Why do they give it full authority? What would be the reasons why they wouldn't?
Well, by default, it's not full authority for the protection of the estate. So if you have unethical people trying to lie to the family, intimidate the family, get the price down on the asset, the court just wants to oversee and make sure that the estate is not being abused, and oftentimes that's because of the family members, not because of the public. Like, they want to make sure that someone's not just dumping an asset to take the money and run. So they have that oversight built in. The overbid process is the same thing, to make sure that the most valuable asset isn't just liquidated for an unreasonable low price. That's why the overbid process exists. The full authority, you'll stand in the representative will stand in front of the court and say, I want full authority because I'm competent, and this is I'm not a risk to the estate. And if the judge sees it that way, then they approve it, and that's usually the case. But that's why it's there. It's for the protection of the estate from abuse from the public and from the family.
And Amy, I really apologize. I don't want to catch up. We have 6 more in the queue, so go ahead. You have one more question, and I really, first of all, I want to thank you for contributing. You always have valuable things to bring to the call. Go ahead. You had one more follow-up question?
So I'm just wondering, it sounds like if it's not full authority, it's because a family member said, I don't trust the personal representative. Is that kind of how it becomes not full authority?
No, like I said, it's not full authority by default. So you have, by default, a probate filing is limited authority in the state of California. The way to get full authority is to petition the court for that. So the full authority is the exception.
Okay. All right. Now I understand. All right. Perfect.
All right. Thank you so much. Very inspiring story, and thanks for your participation. Next up is phone number ending in 0883. You're up next.
Hey, Jim Forsyth in Memphis. How are you today?
Great, Jim. How about you, buddy?
I'm doing good. Just for anybody, I talked with Chad, and he gave me something, and I kept looking. I was looking for a source to find phone numbers to make contact with people that you didn't have a number on. And I found a really economical way, if anybody's on the call that needs it as well. If you go to the whitepages.com, click on the premium membership and select to pay $250 per month annually. It comes to $29.95 one-time payment per year, and you get 20 inquiries per month for that, and that will give you basically the name, address, telephone numbers.
Now, Jim, are you finding a lot of them that we're not finding phone numbers for? That's pretty unusual.
No, but you get into looking to find others. This might be more. I use it like if I'm running a probate deal, and then I run across something else, or it just helps me to find additional numbers. Yeah,
that makes sense. Like the first gentleman that was doing one that the probate hadn't been filed yet, so it's just an additional way to find good phone numbers. Good. Okay. Excellent.
Right, and all the other sources I've seen were like $39 to $50 a month. And,
excellent.
But anyway, that's what I had today. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Jim. Next up is phone number ending in 5952. You're up next.
Hi. I was wondering, when you're calling the leads, this is going to sound probably confusing to you, you're calling regarding the property of the deceased person, right?
Yes.
Chad's going to
among other things.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, no, the reason I'm asking is because I called one of the leads the other day, and she said to me, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't own any property on such and such street.
Okay. So
I just wanted to make sure that I was calling regarding the right information and not sounding like an idiot.
Yep. So what you should stop doing immediately is looking at the deceased last known address. That just simply means that's where somebody received mail when they passed away. So what we get you is we get you every probate from your county courthouse every month. So some of it, statistically, about 80% of them will own real estate, and others won't. Some will already have sold it. Some will have transferred it 10 years ago to the kids so they didn't have to go through this. So don't, like I mentioned before, don't try to deduce too much from looking at the limited data set we give you. You're much better off to use that very friendly voice you've got, pick up the phone and focus on people and situation, and then kind of figure out, then segue into the real estate conversation and see how many ways you can help them. So we've built a team of people here locally that help families going through probate. We can help with yada, yada, yada. What's been the toughest thing so far? Okay, well, thanks for sharing that with me. Listen, the biggest challenge for most people is real estate. So that's one of the main things we focus on in the beginning. Is there any real estate in the estate that you guys need to sell, and do you have a plan for that? So you kind of show them that, hey, I'm calling to help you, and then the first order of business, because it's the biggest asset we need to talk about is real estate, and that's an easy segue into it. If they don't have real estate, then you can just, that's an opportunity for you to get them over to your financial advisor and have them, do you have a plan for, well, even the folks who didn't have real estate, we try to, help everybody. Let me ask, do you have a plan for preserving the inheritance and reinvesting that? Would you mind if I had my personal financial advisor call you so he can kind of walk you through some options? A lot of our clients set up college savings plans, pay off debt, and set up more traditional investments. Would that be okay if you had a free consultation so you know your options? And then jump off the phone. You just take a few seconds. When that person needs real estate help, they're going to remember you because you helped even when you couldn't monetize it directly. So that's kind of the best practices that we teach. Don't try to guess too much. Don't call and say, hey, I'm calling about the estate of Jane Smith. She owned 123 Walnut Street. Do you want to sell it? Usually that's the best way to get hung up on. If you make it about the people and the situation, and then layer in your different layers of service, including real estate brokerage, then it's usually a pretty smooth conversation, and it ends up going more like Amy's story was the two callers ago.
Right. Okay.
That help? All right. Yeah, Chad, we've looked at the numbers before. Often the last known address is the property address, but often they pass away in a nursing home, care facility, living with relatives. So like Chad said, you can't automatically assume that. Chad, what do you figure? Maybe 60 to 70% of the time the last known address is probably the property involved? Would that be a fair guesstimate?
Oh, yeah, that or higher. I mean, it oftentimes is a subject property, but I try to always steer people away from the habit of referencing that in their marketing, because if it's not, then you just look like you look at people. Oftentimes the reaction I see is kind of they pull back because they feel like it's an invasion of privacy. Where if you just focus on a broader offer of, I'm trying to understand your situation and provide options to you, it's a much warmer reception. Even when you're right, sometimes people are like, well, how the hell does she know it's 123 Walnut Street? I just find it a much smoother conversation if you just keep it broad and then start to narrow down into the specifics. And even if you're asking questions, like I always say, well, okay, well, listen, Joe, what was the property address? 123 Walnut Street, and I see it right there on my screen, but I didn't lead with, so Joe, it's 123 Walnut Street, right? It's just a whole different conversation if you kind of let that happen organically and get to that. You can verify that information through the conversation, but it's much smoother if you don't try to get it all out there in the beginning and show that you know everything already.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. We have all right, 3 more in the queue. Phone number ending in 6722. You're up next.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, guys. It's Carlos again. So I'm primarily concentrating on wholesale deals. What's the frequency that you have with wholesale deals through this probate system?
I think he's asking what percentage of them are good investor deals. I'll let Chad answer, but my own experience in my market, about 10% of these had some compelling urgency, and they were either a good wholesale deal or a good buy and flip. The other 90% are going to probably end up listing with a realtor. That's why we suggest, Carlos, that you have a realtor on your team that you can work with. Because a lot of times they may not be a deal up front, and then they'll list it, and if it doesn't sell right away, they might be a deal a few months down the road. So it's really important you find a good realtor to work with that you can refer the ones to that'll, have your back if the situation changes. And I interrupted you, Chad. Go ahead.
I mean, I second everything you said. Like, you're spot on. The one thing I would say, Carlos, is wholesale is a pretty broad term. Like, it depends on who your end buyer is. So if you're just trying to buy these at a wholesale flip price, like 50 to 60 cents on the dollar, you're going to get boxed out of a lot of deals that you could have sold to landlords. So the end buyer on most of my probate deals were first-time home buyers who had saved up to rehab a house because they just weren't finding what they wanted, or landlords that would pay typically 80 to 90% of as-is value. So if that house was worth $100 on MLS, one of my flippers might only have paid $70,000 or less for that, where I could sell it to a landlord for $80,000 and he was happy because he was adding it to a portfolio, and it was still a 10 cap rental investment at almost retail price. So just make sure you understand who you're, when you're in the acquisition, before you write the purchase agreement or make the offer, you should understand who your end buyer is on that particular asset, because you can sell. I've sold a ton of properties to landlords that the flippers, they snubbed me on. They're like, that's crazy. That's a stupid price. I'm like, okay. And one email later, I've got 3 landlords fighting to buy the same property. So you're kind of in control of that. Like, if you're just doing the template offer of 70% minus repairs, you're going to get boxed out of a lot of deals. If you have a good landlord buyer list, you'll be able to wholesale a lot more.
Thank you.
Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, awesome. We have 2 more in the queue. Good timing, guys. We're going to probably get this right at about the hour mark by the time we're done. Next up is a phone number ending in 7668. You're up next.
Yeah, this is Arthur out of the Chicagoland area. Actually, the last caller had a similar question, so I pretty much got answered.
All right, excellent. And that helped? The last answer helped you? Okay, good.
Yes,
all right, guys, last call. Hit *6 and hit 1. We have 1 more person in the queue. Otherwise, we might actually wrap it up on time this week. Possibly the last call of the week is phone number ending in 9351. You're up next.
Hi, I'm Darcy, and I had talked to this executor, and I called the attorney, and what's going on is she's waiting for half of his sister to sign off on her having the consent to be the executor. But my question is, how can I convince her to the property's going on in auction on July, and I have a few buyers that are interested. How can I convince her that she could still go ahead and do the listing with a contingency? And I said, well, where is the half sister? She said, oh, I don't know, but my niece got a hold of her and said she needed to sign off, and the court sent her the paperwork, and she got the paperwork, but for some reason she's not signing it, or I don't know if she's just procrastinating. I don't know what the problem is. But
is it the top half or the bottom half of the sister?
I caught that too, Chad. I wasn't going to say anything.
If it's the bottom half, she may not have signed because she doesn't have arms. Sorry, I'm a smart ass. I know, Darcy.
The stepsister. But, I talked to her yesterday. She said, Darcy, I'm really trying, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, can I call the half-sister? And she said she'll try to get the phone number for me from the niece. So whether she does or not.
That's really the best thing you can do. I mean, this is similar to a divorce situation. Like, when you have estranged family members, it can get difficult. So you can't really list it until there is an administrator appointed. So until she actually gets appointed as the administrator, she doesn't have the authority to list the house in her name. So you kind of have to, and it sounds like this, well, Typically, these are pretty easily solved if you just learn how to massage ego of the, kind of the upset family member. So you're probably more likely to have a conversation with her half sister than she is. Otherwise, this would have already been dealt with. So if you can get her phone number, reach out to the half sister, remind her that she's winning. Show her any way she can that she's winning. She's got the upper hand, and she's going to get some money in that hand. Then hopefully she'll sign it and you can move forward. Like, you may have to play good cop, bad cop and say, yeah, I know, listen, sisters can be difficult. Mine's a bitch too. But listen, if we move forward, I can get you some money. And you may have to throw and you can ask the other sister, like, if I have to play bad cop, is that okay? But if you can appeal to her ego, whatever's driving that behavior, and make her feel like she's winning, get her to sign the damn paper and then move forward, that's probably your best chance.
Yeah, because she's real frustrated too. She has all the signatures, but the half sister. So,
yeah.
And another question is, when when you're saying, offer them help and blah blah blah, and don't focus on the real estate, but I don't really want to help them unless it is with the real estate. What am I going to help them with? You know what I mean?
So what you're saying is, I'm not willing to offer anything more than my peers. So if you enjoy competition, that's great. Like, you have the same offer as everyone else. The reason we teach you to offer multiple options is because no one else takes the initiative to do that, and it really doesn't result in much more work for you, just a much higher perceived value of service. So if you want to be like everyone else, just go straight to the real estate conversation and get hung up on, and you'll be just like every other agent in your market.
But what am I helping them with?
Getting houses cleaned out, you can help them get the house cleaned out, get the most money for the personal property, get family members moved into suitable housing, get them into long-term care.
But you're saying if they don't have property, I still can offer services. But if they don't have property, what services am I offering them? To do what?
So statistically, statistically, the family will inherit just under $177,000. So you have somebody that's in distress that can use some help and has a pocket full of cash. They can buy real estate. They can upgrade their primary residence and use that as a down payment for a bigger home. They can start a rental portfolio. You can get them over to your financial advisor and create a new client for him to help. He can set up college savings plans, life insurance plans, estate plans. And the next time they do have a real estate need or somebody in their sphere of influence, who do you think is going to come to mind?
So you're saying with their inheritance money, make a plan for them and options on what to do with the money for them. Like, I have an accountant, I have this, I have that, like that, more or less.
Yeah.
And then just okay. Then just don't even.
And you remember, Darcy, majority. This is going to be a minority of the cases. Most of them are going to have real estate. But we've learned so much from you guys over the last 5 years. We've had so many of our subscribers tell us they just asked that extra question, and, they were able to, because if you inherited $175,000, it's a good chance that you might buy a nicer home and sell the one you're in. So it's just asking a few extra questions on how you can help them. It's going to be a majority of the time, but it can make a big difference, and it's again, like Chad said, it's something almost nobody else is doing. Darcy and I go ahead, Chad.
Just 6 weeks ago, ish, like in the last month and a half or so, on this call, a gentleman came on to tell a success story where the deceased really didn't have any assets. The probate was a very minor, like he had a few liabilities. But he provided value anywhere he could and said, is there any other way I can help you? And the guy was so impressed with his offer to help, even when there wasn't real estate, that he's like, you know what? I'm getting ready to sell my house and upgrade. I'd like for you to come over and meet me. He took a $1.8 million listing, sold it in a heartbeat, and represented him as a buyer on a $2 million upgrade. So he probably made $60,000 because he had good intent on the phone. And most agents would have been like, well, no real estate, can't monetize him, click. And he had the right approach, and he made more than the average realtor makes in a year and a half on one damn phone call just because he had a servant's heart and wanted to offer. He truly intended to help that person.
But see, I'm just stuck on, I don't know, really, I don't know what to help, really, I don't know what
Darcy,
to help them.
A month ago, Darcy, I don't mean to cut you off. We have two more people in the queue, but you are making progress. A month ago, you were convinced everybody was going to be media at the calls, and now you're making the calls and you're having success. So keep coming back, and if you need extra help with this kind of stuff, come on the role play call next Wednesday, and let's go over some of these scenarios. Okay. Okay,
sounds good.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. We have the last two in the queue today. Is phone number ending in 6750. You're up next.
Okay, hi. This is my first time on a call, Jim. This is Ellie. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, Ellie. You're welcome.
Hey. So I'm finding the call very informative. Chad, thank you. My question is for Chad. So, Chad, I'm curious. Well, I'll just be more specific. Can you share some of the ways that you built a strong landlord-buyer list? How did you do it?
So my first move, I came from Hawaii to Virginia into a market where I knew literally nobody when I first got here. The first thing I did was I went to the Real Estate Investors Association and observed for a couple of meetings, and then I saw a way that I could provide value. They didn't have any data, like their opinion of the market was real anecdotal, and I'm very analytic. So I pulled a year's worth of GIS data and a year's worth of MLS data, merged them into a data set which exposed the 25% of our market that's kind of the black market, the investor market. And then I presented to the REI group and just blew their socks off. Like they had never seen, some of them had seen the realtor data and just, very basic reporting. But I did that to kind of create a reputation for myself that, hey, I'm a real estate agent, but I know your market better than you do, and I've only been here a week. So that formed a lot of relationships. Like I got to know most of the guys in that group that owned multiple houses. Probably those were some of the best relationships I had. Probably the highest volume of adding landlords to my buyer list was off of short sale sign writers. So probably 8 in 10 sign calls on a short sale will be a landlord who owns a home in that vicinity. And the trick I used was to kind of like I was just on my soapbox preaching to Darcy, like actually care about that conversation and actually care about that person's motive to buy. So I would say, well, interesting. What attracted you to this one? Oh, okay, that's cool. How many other homes do you own? All right, well, great. How do you value it? Do you use an income? Like, are you looking at it on a cap rate or a per door, or like how do you value your rentals? All right, awesome. Hey, listen, I've got a foreclosure list, an under 50,000 list, and a short sale list. You want me to sign you up for those? Boom, I got their email. So I understood their strategy, and then I found a way to offer value to get their email address in return, and I already had their phone number. And I've got within a year, within the first year, in a town of 100,000 people, I have 138 people on my cash buyers list. And I would say 70% of them probably 80% of them are landlords. And I can I sold a portfolio of 56 houses with one email. I never left my desk. I didn't step foot into a single property. Neither did the buyer, actually. Didn't even meet the seller in person, and I met him from that group. So their business can come from all directions, but when you have a good landlord buyer list, you can very easily sell properties just under market value, and if you're in a market with a good rent. So That's how I built mine. So sign calls and just networking at the local RIA.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for sharing.
Excellent. Great call. We have one more. Mr. Forsythe, you're closing it out today. Inspire the group with something inspirational. No pressure.
Oh, well, kind of sort of answer Darcy's question.
Okay.
I got a lead from Sam and Brandon this week. It was an elderly gentleman and lived in East Tennessee. I'm in West Tennessee, and he was not sure if the things were going well. I'm still waiting to hear back from him, but I just went in and I found out from one of the probate attorneys that I deal with, that everything was pretty much above board. He didn't need to really worry, and so he's had to call with the probate attorney. So you help people, and it'll come back and help you down the road. Another thing is when we build the teams around us, one of my contractor investor sources, I've been helping him. We're looking for stuff all the time, showing him my probate stuff, and he's now come back to me. He's trying to get an investor that's going to build 6 to 8 houses in Midtown Memphis, and this investor wants to use another agent. Well, my builder is now trying to get him to where he will use me. And so when you work with all these people, the different people that you have, different sources, all of it has come back to help you down the road.
Well said. Sounds like the golden rule, or as Chad likes to say, provide value first. It's the same concept. I think you guys think it sounds corny sometimes, but believe me, it does work. We've had so many of our agents that I can't think of who it was. It might be Roger Lacey, but he's gotten more. Everybody he works with on any probate deal, he puts them in their sphere of influence, and he prospects them like a past client, whether they are or not. And he has just grown his business exponentially from the contacts, from the people, related industries, from people that met at the probate open houses. And, anybody you meet is an opportunity to grow your sphere of influence. And the more you help them, the more it's going to come back to you in the long run. So thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I've also been working, talking to numerous probate attorneys, and I know down the road I'm going to be getting several leads from these. A couple of them, Sam and Brandon have provided me, and then one was through another source. But everybody just hang in there; it'll come.
All right, well said, guys. Patient group. I think I don't know how many callers, if we went over the 150 or not. I think this is our longest call, so I want to thank everybody. Everybody stayed till the end. Pretty much 8% of the people are still here. I want to end this call, guys, like I always do. Thank you so much for being here. You took over an hour out of your lives to be here. I want to challenge every one of you. Take one thing, one story, one idea that inspired you on this call. Go out and put it into practice, and come back next Wednesday for our role play call.
Okay.
And next Thursday for our mastermind call, and share your results with the group, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Make it a great week. Take